Well, hey everybody, my name is Dusty Gallup. I'm the campus pastor at North Fort Worth. I hope you guys have been enjoying this time that we've been studying being better together, growing together in groups, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, is growing together. So anytime, in any kind of situation, any relationship, whether it's friends or spouse or with your kids or your coworkers, as you continue to grow together, at some point along the way, there are going to be bumps. There's going to be some kind of conflict come up, and it's always best if we can kind of address that beforehand and we can know how to deal with those situations. So one of my best friends in the world, his name's Jamie Pope. Anytime that we would have a difficult conversation or situation come up, he would sit down and go, "Hey, we're friends, right?" And I'd be like, "Oh man, where is this gonna be going? This is gonna be tough." But what we have to know is when we grow and have those tough conversations, we get better, we get stronger together. And growing together, it requires patience. Growing together requires patience. I know that that's a difficult thing for us, but it always makes us better. Matter of fact, if we look at Ephesians chapter 4, we're going to see a little bit about having some patience. So it says this, Ephesians 4, verses 2 and 3. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. In any situation we find ourselves, no matter how difficult, the goal is always unity. It's always being together. So growing together requires patience, but it also requires truthfulness. It requires honesty and being open. So if we continue in Ephesians chapter 4, let's take a look at verse 15. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. So anytime we're in a difficult situation, a difficult conversation, we have to ask ourselves the question, does this person, are they really trying to tear me down? Do they want the worst for me? And we have to understand and realize that the answer to that, it's no. They want the best for us. And when we're having a difficult conversation with somebody, we have to know that we want the best for them. We want unity. We want reconciliation of that relationship so that it can be the best that it possibly could be. We have to enter into those conversations with grace and with truth. We've talked about this in the series that we did last month. And so when we talk about these things, there has to be a balance of grace and truth. And it's not a 50-50 balance either. It's a 100% grace, 100% truth when we're having these conversations. So we have to check our motives. We have to ask ourselves, how am I going into this conversation? Is it to go into it and go, "Hey, look, you're wrong, this is why," because as soon as we go in like that, then defenses go up and it's not going to be a great experience for anybody. So what we need to do is when we go into those conversations, plan your presentation. Think through exactly what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. So we need to think through when we're going to say it. When we're going to say it. Make sure you have the right timing on this. Guys, look, if you're having a difficult conversation with your wife, don't try to have it as you're putting the kids to bed. That's not the best time. Think about when to have the conversation. Think about what you're going to say. I would encourage you, write it down even. Go, all right, here's what we need to say. Here's how we need to say it. Think about how you're going to say it. You approach it gently and with grace, with empathy. Matter of fact, let's take a look at Proverbs chapter 12, verse 18, and here's some wise words from King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. He says this, "The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing." In our relationships, in these conversations, we need to always try to bring hope and healing, and again, unity into the situation. If we go in guns a-blazing, guess what? Walls are going to go up, defenses are going to go up, and it's not going to be a great and wholesome experience. And one of the first and foremost things that we need to do in any situation we find ourselves in is pray. And I'm not talking about that, "Hey man, I'm going to be praying about that." I'm talking really, really pray about it. Because when you think about it really, we have an opportunity to talk to the creator of the universe, the creator who knows me, who knows you, who knows our spouse, and knows our kids, and knows our friends even better than we do, because guess what? He created them. And seek God's wisdom and direction for how He would have us lead forward in these situations. Because here's the thing about prayer. We'll pray about this situation or this person and ask God to fix it and change it. And here's the truth. While prayer may not always change the situation or change the person, guess what? It always changes me. God always softens my heart and opens my eyes to maybe see some things about it that I may not have saw before. Let's take a look again at Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. King Solomon tells us this: a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Again, be careful how you go into the conversation. Think about how would you want somebody to respond to you, like if it was in a difficult time. We want to say what we have to say tactfully. We want to say it tactfully, with grace. We want to say it lovingly. We want to say it gently, because we don't want to stir up anger and wrath. We want to bring hope and healing into the situation. Because again, the goal is unity. The goal is empathy, so that these people can understand what we're feeling and so that we can understand what they're feeling. So God can strengthen our relationships, draw us closer together, so that more people may know that the gospel's real, that the love of Jesus is real. And lastly, growing together requires forgiveness. Look, in any situation, in any conflict, in any kind of conversation we find ourselves in, there are three sides to every story. Like, my kids do this all the time. I can hear upstairs, sister did this, or brother did this. And I'm like, look, here's reality. Again, there are three sides. There's your side of the story, there's my side of the story, and then there's what really happened. And what we have to do is we have to show grace and empathy in that. Forgiveness has to be given. It has to be modeled. It has to be embraced. Because after all, that's really what Jesus did for us. So in wrapping up, let's look at Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. It says, bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. Look, we have all made mistakes. We have all messed up, but Jesus loves us. He's forgiven us, and He's made a way for us to be back in a part of His family. As His people, our responsibility is to live and model the gospel with our spouse, with our kids, with one another, and within the church and outside in the community. We are called to share and encourage one another with 100% grace and 100% truth. I hope you guys have enjoyed this teaching time here. I want to encourage you to dive into the discussion questions, really ask some good questions, encourage one another, open up, be vulnerable, get to know one another better, because as we grow together, we get better. As you wrap up your time, I want to encourage you to pray that God would strengthen your relationships and your families and around one another. I love you guys. Thanks for being here.